Okay.
So you just have to read
That's right.
it.
It's like
If
this.
the phone call does,
So it doesn't use to-
All right, so short-term stress. So when we are what is imbalanced? We are stressed. So that's kind of the imbalance in homeostasis. So we just label it as stress. Or sorry, we'll call it short-term stress specifically. Okay. This sends a message to the hypothalamus in the brain. This is the feedback loop for short-term stress. Yeah. So the hypothalamus in the brain, okay, it's actually going to send a nerve signal to something called the adrenal medulla. Okay, now I'm going to show you a picture of what the adrenal medulla is so that you have context. So I might have told you about it in Bio 20. But the adrenal gland, so let's turn this. The adrenal gland actually sits on top of your kidneys. Okay, kind of a weird place, but so you have these glands, these kind of like triangle-shaped glands on top of your kidneys, and so you obviously have a right and a left one, and it's right and left because it's like this way, right, left, okay. And so if we took that gland off of the kidney and we cut it, there would be a distinctive different color in the middle and on the outside. So in the middle, it's called the medulla. Yeah. Hi. Okay, and then, well, just actually, yeah. Okay, so think middle medulla. Around it is cortex, so middle medulla. So let's draw a little picture beside our adrenal medulla to show kind of what this is about. So where it says it stimulates the adrenal medulla, it's specifically the middle part of the adrenal gland there. So let's draw a little picture beside our thing. So we have a kidney. And on top of it is an adrenal gland. So think middle medulla. So inside, medulla, around it, cortex. So this nerve message was sent specifically to the middle part of the adrenal gland called the medulla. Okay? So that's important to be able to know about. All right, so then what this adrenal medulla does is it's going to secrete a hormone. The hormone it's going to secrete, actually two of them, is epinephrine and norepinephrine. Now on your summary sheet, I had only written epinephrine down on the hormone. So on your summary sheet, find the short-term stress, and then there's epinephrine, right, and norepinephrine there. Now, what is the difference between the two? Not very much. You want to think about norepinephrine and epinephrine as doing the same thing. Don't be confused by that there's like that no in front of it. The no doesn't mean that it's like the opposite, okay? They're kind of the same. The only difference is like there's one very small chemical difference in how the structure of the hormone is. But they serve the same function, okay? So epinephrine and norepinephrine, you should think they're pretty much the same thing. But they are actually two separate hormones, okay? Now, we've heard about these hormones before, right? We're familiar with them. So when you think of epinephrine, what do you think of? Just the first thing off the top of your head. EpiPen, yeah. Adrenaline, yeah. Adrenaline, so adrenaline is another word for epinephrine, yeah. Good. So what does an EpiPen have? Epinephrine. That's all it is. It's a shot of epinephrine. Okay, so what happens if you took an EpiPen right now and shot it in your leg? What would happen?
You bounce off the walls.
Why?
Well, because you get such a rush.
Get such a rush. What's the rush, do you think?
Like your short-term stress.
Yeah?
Okay.
So what does it, like, so if we want to run away from a bear, or stay and fight the bear, or just decide to shoot ourselves with epinephrine, okay, what is actually happening to our physiological body? When people have been in situations that they're under extreme short-term stress, so I just keep using this bear example because it's legit, okay? So, there's been cases of people where, okay, they've been in the bush and they have had a bear encounter, but they ran away, and or maybe it wasn't a bear, it couldn't have been a bear. Anyways, something. And they ran away and they jumped up a tree. It couldn't be a bear because it's a bear. So they jumped up a tree and they stayed up in this branch kind of thing. And somebody found them later. Oh my gosh, like, you're up in that tree, what happened? You know, like, brought them down. And then they said, they got back down, they looked up and went, how did you jump up there? Like, how'd you do it? There wasn't any extra, like, branches, like, how did you do it? And they try jumping, like, to get up there, like, to just, you know, jump, grab on, you know, can't do it. Can't do it. And they're like, how'd you do it? I don't know. It's epinephrine. It gives you almost like this superpower, you know? It is quite crazy how much epinephrine affects you, okay? It can give your muscles power that you could not have done on a normal day, okay? This feedback cycle is like extreme. This doesn't kick in when you're nervous that you, I don't know, that somebody took your parking spot. Like, this is extreme, okay? Yeah?
Doesn't it, like, it overexert all your muscles, like all the energies?
Yes. Yeah, it converts all that glucose ATP. Let's go, right now. We need some ATP and we need it now. Okay, so let's write down some of the main things that it does. So it does about 3 main things. So if we need to make some serious ATP, what do I need to have available? Sugar, yes. So any reserved sugar is going to be converted into usable sugar. What is it called when sugar is like in reserve? Glycogen. Glucagon is the hormone that converts it. Yeah, good. So number 1, any glycogen is converted into glucose because we need some serious glucose. So then, number 2, because now we have lots of glucose available, what is it called when cells use glucose to make ATP? Cellular respiration, yes. So increased cellular respiration, which we can also say is metabolism. Metabolism is the word that explains like how fast you're burning things. So if we say we have an increased metabolism, it means that our cells are like burning that glucose faster, which makes sense because we, like you said, it's like your muscles get all this energy. Where does that energy come from? ATP, cellular respiration, so metabolism. So if you hear connected with epinephrine that you have increased metabolism, you can think cellular respiration as well. Okay?
What would happen if you took like an EpiPen before a game, but like you didn't have
Like that you didn't really need it, right? Okay. So good. Well, what do you think? Give me some ideas first, so we can keep rolling with it.
I feel like you get really amped, like you crash.
And then you would
Really
crash
hard.
really hard, yeah? Because it would be like all of that glucose would be used up in like 2 minutes, right? And then yeah, you wouldn't have anything left.
You're probably done for that 2 minutes, so.
After, because like I'm saying, this is extreme. Epinephrine is serious, and so it's like your body is saying, if you don't use that glucose now, we might die. You know, that's like your body's in that such a state that if we don't just use everything we have, we could die. So just put it all in. Just put it all in. So what else happens though? Keep going. Like, so do we think, okay, yeah, that's great. We'll just keep shooting myself with epi, right? Like, oh yeah, no. Why wouldn't we though?
your heart faster.
Yes. Okay, good. So let's put that in another thing here. We have increased heart rate. Okay. So we have an extremely increased heart rate because it's like if that glycogen was in your liver and muscles, you need it to be converted to glucose, and then you want it to go into the bloodstream and be pumped to your muscles, right? So you want a faster heart rate so that you can get the blood pumping way faster, okay? So if you didn't need it, you could increase your heart rate so much that you could die. Yeah. So don't shoot yourself with an EpiPen if you don't need it, okay? So what is an EpiPen for then if it's not for like, because you know, we naturally secrete epinephrine if we're in a stressful situation. So why would somebody, what do we have an EpiPen for?
Is it for like allergic reactions?
Yes.
So then there'd be more blood pumping to fight off.
Exactly. So when we have an allergic reaction that we say is called anaphylactic, that means that it's so extreme that your airways are closing, that you can't breathe, that you can't pump blood, you're basically shutting down. That you need, so when we go into anaphylactic shock, our body's shutting down. The epi is for being like, wake up, you know, it needs so much like awakening because it's starting to shut down, because you're gonna die this way, so it's like overkill so that you don't die. So if we're like at a normal place and we take epi, it's like, and we could die because it's like too far the other way, right? So we want to always be, we want to stay homeostasis. Yeah, so good, yeah. So yeah, definitely increased heart rate, okay? What else would also have to increase? Or what would be a result of increased heart rate? Increased blood pressure, yeah. Increased blood pressure. Okay. So if you need increased cellular respiration, that means you needed more glucose available. We already dealt with the glucose, but what else do you need for cellular respiration? What's another ingredient? So we have C6H12O6 plus O2. So if we need more oxygen, and we're also going to then have more waste, like more CO2, we'll need to get it out. So what will also need to increase? Breathing, yeah. So we'll say increased breathing rate. Okay? So I remember when I was like having to memorize this list, and say you're doing like a quick and dirty feedback loop, I just write that, like, instead of writing the word increased, I just draw an arrow going up. And then I'll say increased cellular metabolism, increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, increased blood pressure, you know? Like, it could be as simple as that when you are doing your memory stuff, right? You don't have to write out every word. Because if you know what the arrow means, that means increased in all those 4 things. So these 4 things increase, okay? So kind of, yeah. Now, also, we need to be aware of where the blood is pumping, okay? So we have increased heart rate, increased blood flow, but our body, when we have epinephrine, is specific to where the blood goes. So we'll have an increase blood flow to something, and a decreased blood flow to another thing. And we did talk about this a little bit when we were starting to just even, because when we talked about sympathetic nerves, we talked about this a little bit. So what would we want increased blood flow to?
Our limbs.
Pardon?
Our limbs.
Limbs, yeah, muscles, yeah. Yeah, good. So essentially, it's muscles. Because for whichever one you choose, fight or flight, you're going to need manpower, right? If you're going to be running away, you know, or stay in a fight, that's all that you want. So what don't we care about?
Digestive system.
Exactly. Digestion and excretion. At that point, no matter how bad you had to go to the bathroom, you don't care. Or you might just, your sphincters might just let it go. That too. You might just be like, just dump it and go. Like, right? Just get rid of it. That's extra weight holding us back. That it could go either way. Or you're just like, no, no matter how you had to pee, you just keep going. Okay, so those are kind of the main physiological increases. Now there's one other thing that happens. It has to do with our eyes. What do you think happens? Yes, yeah, pupils dilate. So number 3, we can say pupils dilate. So we have a dilation so that we want to take in more sensory information, right? The larger our pupils are, then the more space there is for light to come in. So again, a quick recap, how does your pupil dilate? What moves?
Iris.
Iris. Okay, so this is serious. And if somebody is having an anaphylactic shock where it's like they have an allergy and they are shutting down, it is closing up, if you have an EpiPen, put it in their muscles, right? Go right into their muscle. Usually your leg is the best place, because you need to shock them back to the other side, right? So that their airways open, they have increased breathing because they're starting to close down. Okay, so this is an interesting one because it's not really like it brings us to homeostasis. Like, you don't really feel like, wow, I feel balanced now. You know, it doesn't feel, it's not as much like that. But what it does is it gives us energy to deal with the stress. Okay, we have the energy resources available to deal with the stress. So we'll write that in here. So energy available to manage stress until the next time we have a short-term stress. Now, as was brought up, you can have, well, you will have a total crash after you've experienced a short-term stress, because your body you need to eat to build up your glucose again, and to rest your muscles and your heart and everything. So if you go through too many short-term stresses, that's not good either, right? And you can maybe even think of some situations, like if you've had some extreme stressful situations, you know what that's like, and you know what the crash is after. You're just like, oh, like you couldn't, it's almost unbelievable how much energy you had in that short-term stress, and then how dead you feel after, right? It's just like, it almost feels like bipolar, right? Like night and day. You're like, I can't even believe that was me, you know? It can be pretty extreme. So, but if our body releases a bit of epinephrine in a not crazy stressful situation, that can be okay too. But it's just when we have extreme stress, this epi is intense. So, that is short-term stress. So a lot of that memory there in that box, I find if you just think about it logically, like you guys thought of most of that list yourself, right? Just with being aware of what epinephrine is.